Welcome to Tuesday's Half Hour to Hell. Oh, wait, no. Let's use the electronic one. Stress and disease. Okay, what's interesting, when you look at this, look at these two pictures. The average American today takes 12 prescriptions if they're over 60. 12. Now, there's no science that says that 1 or 2 or 3. We do know that if you're taking 3 or more blood pressure drugs to lower your blood pressure, that you have a greater incidence of dying, okay, than if you weren't taking any drugs at all. So this is psychotic. Where did all of this come from? First, we're going to look at stress, okay, because without certain stressors, we'd all be dead. We need the stress of gravity. We thrive on stress. However, we're going to break all this stress down to 3 different categories: physical, chemical, and emotional stress loads. Now, according to most surveys, you're talking at least half of all Americans have some form of stress. And I got to tell you, it's way beyond that. Because when we look at the effects of chronic stress, it's radically wiping out our body. So look at the 3 categories: physical stress, chemical stress, and emotional stress. Here's the weird part. Your body has the same response to all 3. So we have to look at that. Now, CDC says up to 85% of all diseases. Does that include cancer? Yeah. Diabetes? Yeah. Chronic illness, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. Yeah, all of these, up to 85% of all diseases are caused by emotions. Now, why would that be? Why would an emotion cause a lack of ease, or why would it cause a physiologic expression? Okay, now, granted, the society we got is nothing but fear-based. Trust your doctor. In fact, ask your doctor if this is right for you. How would he know? Okay, give birth at a hospital. Yeah, you have 18 per 1,000 births in a hospital that are damaged. Okay, vaccinate yourself and your child. They're now being forced on us. Why? Because we don't want you thinking about what's going in your body. Okay, just be fear, because you got to be afraid of the people that aren't being vaccinated. Because even though your child is vaccinated, the unvaccinated that's not protected will spread a disease. Well, that blew the shit out of that argument. Okay, but anyway, let's be fearful of those unvaccinated people, okay? And eat this food, take this drug, do this treatment. I mean, we're inundated with this, okay? I mean, it's crazy. I got to bring up this because I see so many people starting to wear masks. Now, here's a great one out of the Emerging Infectious Disease Journal. It says that the masks, I know, extremely attractive, but they're not effective in preventing disease, okay? They don't work. So aside from being very attractive, they don't work at preventing. So when you look at this, how come people are saying, well, if you don't get the flu shot and you happen to work in a hospital, you got to wear a mask? It's punishment. It's not common sense. So what do we got? What do we got? And this is, I'm talking about our society and most modern societies. For sure, an unhealthy population, higher disease rates, economic instability. 2018, we're going to see a lot of that coming up. Toxic food, toxic environment. I mean, it's crazy. The statistics today, now remember, the CDC says 85 to 90% of all of the diseases are caused by stress. Does that mean the 1 in 2 in cancer, the 1 in 4 with heart disease, 1 in 20 chronically depressed, 40% of our population are diabetic, 1 in 2 children? What kind of stressors could children have that would develop into a disease? See, I mean, they even talk about non-communicable diseases that are going to wipe out the economies of the planet. That means we can't afford to take care of these. Non-communicable diseases means you can't catch these. You have to earn them. Okay? Heart disease, cardiovascular disease, cancer, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. I mean, all of these, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, they are not genetic. Okay? They are not genetic. You have to express the genes. God, if I hear one more person say, well, gee, it runs in my family. No, it doesn't. Name 5 relatives who don't have it. There's a difference between genetic and genetic expression. I mean, even the annual physical, according to the New England Medical Journal, if you have no symptoms, you're not supposed to utilize the medical system. Let me read that back for you. If you don't have symptoms, you shouldn't go to a medical doctor for a physical. Why? Because it's too dangerous. A battery of unnecessary tests. It's totally ineffective at preventing disease. Completely unnecessary processes and exams. It's not based in reality. And I love this one quote, because if you think that diseases, that these diseases actually exist, and they're not an expression of toxicity or deficiency or physical, chemical, or emotional stress load, if you actually think these actually exist, what's the shape of Alzheimer's? How much does it weigh? What does dementia weigh? Do you understand? These are adaptation to physical, chemical, or emotional stress load. They don't exist. This is, it's like everybody's taking crazy pills. It's simply no longer possible to leave much of the clinical research that's published, or to rely on the judgment of trusted physicians or authoritative medical guidelines. I take no pleasure in this conclusion, which I've reached slowly and reluctantly over her 20 years as editor of the New England Journal of Medicine. This system is not based in science. Now, here's a quote from over 100 years ago, William James. And this, I read this, and I mean, even 100 years ago, they started to see that there was something unusual. The world we see that seems so insane is a result of a belief system that is not working. To perceive the world differently, we must be willing to change our belief system, let the past slip away, expand our sense of now, and dissolve the fear in our minds. I read that and I got goosebumps, and I thought, man, this guy gets it. See, if those diseases that we actually think exist, and it's really a belief system, can't we just change our belief system and change the health of society? Yeah, we can. It seems odd, but I'm going to give you solutions to the physical, chemical, and emotional stress load. Now think of this, and this is how all belief systems have a lifestyle or a life cycle. Okay, and this is huge because like if we went through, we just discovered something. Okay, we found out that, man, there's a God of the sun, there's a God of the ocean, there's a God of the underworld. Okay, and all we got to do is sacrifice a lamb and pray during the spring break. So, you've got the discovery. You've got this formation of an idea. And then when you have multiple gods up there, you have to have the temples and everything else. There's a polytheistic society. And then, of course, you find some challenges that you did sacrifice the ram and your ship still went down. Okay, or you sacrificed the virgin and then the crops didn't come in. So, you found challenges with that belief system. Well, the allopathetic model is that they're smarter than your body, and by God, I can give you a chemical to change the outcome. We can lower your cholesterol, we can lower your blood pressure. Good God, my blood pressure can be raised just thinking about it. But we can give a number of different chemicals to alter your physiology. Now, that was the allopathic model. The problem is, what's the leading cause of death? The allopathic model. The allopathic model. Giving you a chemical to alter your physiology is one of the leading causes of death. So now we're starting to see that and be more aware that, oh my God, we have to pay attention to this. These diseases, we're not victims, we're creating this. And then the medical system that's designed to protect us is not only not protecting us, they're giving us no solutions, they're causing a lot of this. So now we have this decline or a change in belief systems, because that's what it is. In order to deal with stress, the physical, chemical, and emotional stress load, you have to change your belief system of what's out there. Okay, and now we're in a discovery phase, and this is kind of exciting. See, under physical, chemical, or emotional stress load, and I'm going to keep bringing up those three, your body has the same response. First, your brain has to recognize that there's a problem. Okay, and this is where the amygdala comes in. And this is the emotional aspect of the brain. You know, when you're walking down, and this area has kept us alive. When you're walking down the street and you see this dark alley, all of a sudden, your fight or flight system kicks in. You wonder, is it safe to go down there? So this system, the stress response system, has kept us alive for millennia. Okay, now, instantly, this passes over to the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is connected to the autonomic nervous system. Now, this is huge because this is an autonomic or automatic nervous system. And I want you to own this one because it's in two parts. Now remember, physical, chemical, emotional, stress load. Your body responds the same way to all three. You've got two halves of this. One part keeps you alive under stress. That's the sympathetic nervous system. That's the one that if you're being chased by a crazy clown. Okay, am I the only one that's scared of clowns? Okay, how about I use a tiger? Okay, my son's probably not afraid of tigers. Okay, so that wouldn't work either. Okay, you know, and my other son, he could face down 40 people with a paintball gun. So, well, whatever fear you got, okay, physical, chemical, emotional stress, that sympathetic fires off. So what's it going to do? What's it going to do? It's going to have that heart rate elevate. It's going to shut blood supply down to the gut. Cholesterol is going to elevate. Why? Because you're going to need the stress hormones, and you might be injured. In fact, your blood starts to thicken because you're going into battle. Okay, so and the immune system, which is metabolically expensive, gets suppressed. Now, when the danger is over, the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, digest, repair, rebuild, regenerate, that's the parasympathetic, which is extremely metabolically expensive. It takes a lot of energy to regenerate tissue. I mean, not enough like, oh, damn, I got cut. Wait, I got to think about this. I'm going to try and heal it. Yeah. No, but we don't have to do that, do we? No, the body automatically does this stuff. That's why it's an autonomic nervous system. But now, can you see if somebody's under chronic physical, chemical, emotional stress load, like we are today, are they going to be misdiagnosed with alterations in heart rate, function, cardiac arrhythmias, high blood pressure, elevations in cholesterol, okay, blood sugar in abnormalities, you know, oh, they're going to be pre-diabetic. I love that. Yeah, I'm pre-dead, okay? You know, I mean, none of this stuff, it's like stupid. You know, I got patients with stage 0 cancer. I had a patient from Chicago that said, the oncologist, you got invisible tumors in your arm. We can't find them, but I know they're there. Wow, you tell me doctors don't do drugs? Okay, so then, okay, you've got the awareness of this. It goes to the hypothalamus. It goes to the, the amygdala. And then it goes into the adrenal glands. Now, this is the stress organ, okay? But it's also the pharmacy of the body. And in fact, the adrenal glands produce every glucocorticosteroid, mineralocorticosteroid, sex hormone. They produce everything. And they produce it out of cholesterol. Cholesterol is the building product for all of these things. So now, I want you to start thinking. Remember, there's a belief system that we've got to change. So if somebody has high cholesterol, do they have a more of a sympathetically dominant or active adrenal gland system? Yes or yes? Absolutely. So wait a second, doesn't that mean that high cholesterol is no longer a problem, but it's an adaptation to physical, chemical, and emotional stress load? Wow. Now that's a belief system. Yeah, I like that. And also, when you look at this, what happens when the adrenal glands are stimulated? Epinephrine, norepinephrine. Heart rate increases blood flow to the muscles, vital organs, pulse rate, breathing, bronchodilation, oxygen is sent to the brain. Sight, hearing, I mean, hypersensitivity. Okay, we get a lot of people now they can't stand bright lights, they can't stand bright sounds. There's a thing in Europe that they call it jumping Frenchman syndrome. Honest to God, I read it. It was, you're kidding? Yeah, but what if he's Belgium? Okay, so when you look at this, it's called the HPA axis, okay, hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. And when you look at it, there's a massive hormonal shift where your body's going to change these. It's going to change your adaptation to a stress mode. Okay, and is it under physical, chemical, and emotional stress load? Okay, so I want you to understand that the CDC, and these are the most backwards people on the planet, they're saying up to 85 to 90% of diseases are from this stress response. You can see massive hormonal shifts in the stress response, which is going to affect the immune system. Does that make sense? Okay, when you see weight distribution of belly, seat, and thighs, that's cortisol. Okay, cortisol is one of the most important hormones for inflammation. So if someone's under physical, chemical, emotional stress load, cortisol is going to be released. But that's the pattern that we see. When we look at this, and we're going to go through the solutions for physical stress, the solutions for chemical stress, and the solutions for emotional stress. But realize that your body is responding to these stressors just like you're being chased by a crazy clown. I mean, a tiger. Okay? Now, let's say that you've been under consistent emotional stress loads. Your brain is hardwired to produce those emotions. Emotions are chemicals secreted by how the brain perceives the environment. I mean, one of the analogies I like to use, because you got to do a pattern interrupt. When they're in the belief systems of 2017, which is the most ignorant, backward medical system on the planet, when they're in that belief system, okay, what they've got to do is change their wiring of the brain. So I say, look, if you saw a picture of a puppy and you thought, oh man, that's going to chew my shoes and crap on my carpet, and my adrenaline would be starting to be secreted, blood supply to the gut would be shut down, heart rate would be elevated, right? Okay, if you had that belief system that puppies are dangerous. Now I showed you a picture of a puppy and you thought, oh my God, I'm going to cuddle. Okay, he's going to nibble my neck. I'm going to get goosebumps just thinking about it. Okay, what's stimulated? The parasympathetic. So your immune system would be stimulated, blood supply to the gut would be healthy, heart rate would be lower. Okay, does that make sense? But now I'm only giving you the same stimuli, so it's based on your history, okay, of what you've been exposed to. Consistent firing, because emotions are chemicals secreted by how the brain perceives the environment. I mean, you could be like Michael, who's my oldest boy. He's flying 40 feet in the air, kite surfing. How many people would be comfortable with that? Okay, granted, he would find joy, I would find panic, okay? And my youngest boy, facing people down on a paintball field, no thanks. But realize consistent firing, or how the neurons are firing, are going to give a consistent chemical assault, and your body has to respond to on a cellular basis. So we got to do 100% of people with chronic illness, chronic stress, or chronic pain are under a consistent firing. Does that make sense? Okay, now here's a picture of a 95-year-old gal, and you could tell these are appropriate things for how her brain is wired. Doesn't she just have joy? You just want to kind of hang out with her. So if we said that her self-talk, the way her brain is, it's stimulated, vibrant, amused, satisfied, warm, delighted, serene. Can you see that those would be some of the words that she would use as self-talk? Yeah? Okay, now here's nasty. I know every guy in the room went, okay. Okay, suspicious, repulsed, terrified, edgy, feared, fidget. Okay? Now, but that's how the brains are wired. So what we have to do, now here's a patient, 20 years old, came in with obsessive compulsive disorder, attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now what are these? They're disorders of how the brain is wired to respond to the environmental stimulus. Does that make sense? He obviously is showing some stress on it. So we got the physical stress of his x-rays not working correctly. He's 20 years old. So what do you think? Born in an American hospital? Yeah. Was his mom given Pitocin? Yeah. Fully vaccinated? Yeah. Did he have ear infections? Yeah. So we've had, antibiotics, 69 doses of 16 different vaccines. I mean, very, very stressful lifestyle so far. So what do you think? He's also got a leaky gut, low serotonin production. But his mindset is what we had to change first. Remember, the three stressors: physical, chemical, emotional. By God, we're looking at the physical. He's had nothing but chemical assaults on this planet. Now we've got to change his emotional aspect from I'm trying to I am doing. From I got this obsessive compulsive disorder. I've got this Jones's disorder, whatever the heck, make it up. I mean, if you're owning the diagnosis, you're not going to get better. Okay, if you realize that you can actually rewire how your brain is connected. Now we got to reprogram, and this is going to be for emotional stress loads, but also for belief stress loads, your belief system. We reprogram the subconscious through repetition. And I love this. Whatever you hold in your mind will tend to occur in your life. If you continue to believe as you've always believed, you'll continue to act as you've always have acted. If you continue to act as you have always acted, you will continue to get what you always have gotten. How many people would like a great relationship with their lover? Okay, but you never bought flowers. Ain't gonna happen, okay? You gotta buy flowers, you gotta do something, okay? At least for God's sake, some raw chocolate. Okay, so, you gotta put forth the effort, okay? You know what I mean? Now, there's a very simple way, it's called changing your state, and you've got this exercise in there. But this is going to be neurolinguistic programming where it involves body posture, volume, intonation, and breathing. Now, why would body posture? Because remember, this is going to be emotional stress, but also physical stress that we need to change how the brain's rewired. The body posture, if your head is like this, you're taking pressure off of that cervical spine, you're taking pressure off of the brainstem, you're allowing dopamine production to occur. Phenomenal. That's one of the feel-good hormones. But also, anybody in physical, chemical, or emotional stress load, they're going to have certain self-talk words that are going to be familiar. And what I'll do is I'll show this list to them and I'll say, emotions are chemicals secreted on how you perceive the environment. Now look at this list here. Look at this list here. And I'll read it for the people in the back. But burnout, hopeless, apprehensive, removed, depleted, uninterested, exhausted, withdrawn, unhappy, frightened, disgusted, agitated, sleepy, alarmed, anxious, petrified, Terry, I'm just reading the first column. I'm getting pissed and sad and frustrated, okay? And I'll give this and I'll say, okay, 100% of the people involved in physical, chemical, emotional stress load are going to have certain self-talk words. Do you see any familiar words here? What do they say? Yes. Good. You have mastered this list. You don't need to work on this list. Your brain is already hardwired for this list. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so you got to break that pattern interrupt. By God, let's write a new list. Okay, and this is how we reprogram the subconscious. And this is going to be for physical, chemical, and emotional. If you have to lay down on your back 20 minutes a day because you can't stand, okay, you've got some emotional and physical things. So this is like everything. You do I am before each one of these words 10 minutes 3 times a day. This neurolinguistic programming involves body posture, volume, intonation, and breathing. You literally, if you can master your emotional states, you master the chemicals that the brain secretes, you master how your body responds on a cellular basis. Does that make sense? Yes. Absolutely. And this is regardless of any physical trauma you have. You have got to do this. If you've had a major whiplash injury, if you've had fibromyalgia, if you've had restless leg syndrome, if you've had any chronic illness or disease, we have to affect the emotional component to initiate healing. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? Yes. Good. Now, what do you do for fun? Now, a question was posed to me the other day about this. What do you do for fun? Now, I like going to seminars. I think that's fun. Sailing, bike riding, those are fun. But here's the challenge. In our sick society, how many people have to have alcohol every time they have fun? The bar next door opens at 6. I'm here at 5. I'm trying to beat them. So you start thinking it. If you're incorporating depressive, because alcohol and drugs, those are depressives. Okay, most of the food today is toxic. I mean, you're not going to be having a person saying, yeah, man, I was really depressed, but I wanted to eat something, so I ate a whole box of apples. Okay, no, they're not going to do that. Okay, it's going to be donuts or something. But think of this. Remember that the two nervous systems, the sympathetic and the fight or flight. Okay, the sympathetic fight or flight and the rest, digest, and repair. So when you're under chronic stress, physical, chemical, emotional stress, you've got that sympathetic nervous system firing off like crazy. Does that make sense? You're in this fight or flight. You're in this stress state. So what people will do to get them out of that stress state is to stimulate the parasympathetic. Remember, that's the rest, digest, and repair. So they're going to ingest something, do something to have that parasympathetic working for them, to give that balance. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm telling you that this I am exercise is going to initiate that change that's going to be a hell of a lot healthier than doing drugs, alcohol, or toxic food. And again, I mean, you can see this. I see this every day. We're looking at physical stressors. We're looking at the chemical stressors because, you know, this is society today. We're looking at, I mean, how would you treat someone that's hurting? Of course you'd give the deadliest drug in America, Tylenol. Of course you're going to give them a steroid for asthma. You're going to give them an antacid because remember, they're in the sympathetic dominant state, so blood supply to the gut's going to be shut down. They're going to have poor digestion, so we got to give them an antacid, right? See, this is the belief system that we got to change. We change it by just saying, hey, your body is naturally healthy. We can fix it. These are physical stressors. So we talked about correcting the emotional stressor, and that's a component in everything. You got to pay attention to the physical stressors. What we do is we look at the structure. That's before and after. See, did he really have high blood pressure? Or was that a sympathetic dominant state? Did he really have high cholesterol? Or was it a sympathetic dominant state? Did he really have diabetes? Or was it a sympathetic dominant state? Do you know what I mean? Those diseases don't exist. They're just an adaptation to the physical, chemical, and emotional stress load. So we fix it. Again, 20 years of migraines. 20 years of having daily migraines. What would your stress level be like?
Crazy.
Through the roof. Through the roof. Would she have healthy blood supply to the gut or poor blood supply? I mean, the physical stressors. Here's a guy, multiple sclerosis, before and after. And he came in. I've told this story a couple of times, but it still breaks me up because he was standing there and looking down and showing us his shoes. And I thought, well, okay, they're shoes, you know. And he says, no, you don't understand. I've had to wear slip-ons for 20 years. He said, I tied my shoes for the first time, you know, in years, because he's got his hands back. I mean, so what's his potential? His potential is 100% recovery. Why? Because multiple sclerosis is just an adaptation to toxicity and deficiency. If we correct the physical, chemical, and emotional stress load, will he get better? Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, you're looking at high blood pressure, which doesn't exist, nervousness, which doesn't exist, sleep problems, which don't exist. Okay, do you know what I mean? These are just adaptation to those stressors. Now let's look at the chemical stressors. It's interesting because we've got poor sleep is a chemical stressor. It's a chemical stressor. Why? Because it's going to put you in that fight or flight state. First, let's start off some kids. At 12 hours old, we'll give them a hepatitis B vaccine loaded with aluminum. Okay, granted that can cause an inflammatory state, but will that hepatitis B shot at 12 hours, can that cause a stress response in the body? It's designed to. But 69 doses of 16 different vaccines, we're losing a generation here. Now, if we look at the actual science behind it, human and experimental toxicology, wait, is this based in science? Not if you read the journal articles. Studies have not been conducted to determine the safety or efficacy of administering multiple vaccine doses in a variety of combinations as recommended by the CDC guidelines. Not been done. And this is a really complicated part out of the same article. It turns out that the younger and smaller the human being that we're vaccinating, and the more doses, the worse the outcome. The older and larger, because they don't scale the shots back, okay, you get a 1-day-old, that's going to be the same shot in a 6-pound infant as it is into a 12-pound infant. Okay? Yeah, but the studies haven't been done. Now, sleep. How can sleep be such a factor? In Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, gastrointestinal disorders, diseases. See, what do all of these disorders have in common? I want you to keep going back into that fight or flight and rest and digest system. Can you see that that fight or flight, that sympathetic dominant state, that response, normal intelligent response to physical, chemical, emotional stress load is going to initiate gastrointestinal tract disorders? Why? Because you're shutting blood supply down to the gut. Obviously, your body's going to be in a stress state, so you're not going to be regenerating healthy neurons. So Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all of this makes sense. Now, you can live without sleep, but you die without the rapid eye movement, the deep sleep. And this is, since we're all an animal species living on this planet, we have certain circadian rhythms that our body has to live within. Between 11 and 1 o'clock, that's the optimal function for a human being to be in the deepest sleep, because that's when the parasympathetic nervous system kicks in. And that's literally when your body goes into the deepest regeneration or tissue regenerative stage. So does that mean that people that work nights have higher disease rates? Yeah. It's called the graveyard shift, because there's a reason they get higher disease rates. I mean, they're not regenerating. And so when we get people in that say, oh man, I'm a real night owl, I just got to stay up. And I said, well, you're going to change if you want to reverse your cancer. Here's the solution to sleep. How would you like to get deep sleep within 5 days? Good? Nice? Okay, make sure you pick days that you're not going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff, because we're going to reset your circadian rhythms in your brain right now. What? Right now? No. No, I'm not good at hypnotist, but so first, there's a couple of things you got to do, and this is called sleep restrictive therapy. You're going to journal. You're going to physically write stuff down, just like a few lines to a half a page. This quiets an overactive mind. You have to physically read an old-fashioned paper book. Something paper with writing on it, not an electronic book. And because in electronics, like TVs, cell phones, computers, all emit a blue light which interrupts melatonin production. Then you have to go to bed at 10 to 10:30 and get up at 4 to 4:30. But the way our species works, and this is curious, every 90 minutes, your eyes open up and then they close. Because REM state, or the deep eye move, or the rapid eye movement, the deepest part of your sleep, your body isn't moving. So every 90-minute cycle of that, your eyes open up to make sure that the cave is safe. And if there's any visual stimulus or auditory stimuli, you're going to have to get up. And if you're going into battle, do you want a full bladder or you want to evacuate your bladder? Exactly. So when people say, oh man, I had to get up like 3 times last night to pee. No, you didn't. You got in between your REM states of cycle, you had some type of visual stimulus. You went from a parasympathetic state, which is the deep sleep, to a sympathetic dominant state, and you had to evacuate your bladder. No, man, I just had to get up and pee. Okay, no, let me walk you through this. Animal species don't have to pee at nighttime. Okay, that's not how our body works. So this is how to reset that so you can get the deep sleep. You go to bed at 10 to 10:30, but you have to wear night shades because every 90 minutes your eyes are going to open up. You get up at 4 to 4:30. Now, day one, let's say you had to get up 3 times to pee. You only got about an hour's worth of sleep. I don't care. You go all day long. Okay, no naps or anything. Journal, read, night shades, 10 to 10:30, 4 to 4:30. Say you had to get up 3 times that night to pee. Bam, I don't care. Third night, you make it through the whole day. Now you're journaling. Bergman, that son of a bitch. Okay, now you're reading something better. Okay, you put the night shades on. Bam, what's going to happen by day 4? You're going to hit that bed. You're going to be in the parasympathetic state. You're going to be in REM state of sleep right away. And you got to do this because within 5 days, 100% of people are in REM state of sleep. Within 21 days, you've reset those circadian rhythms. Optimal human function for sleep is between 6.5 and 7.5 hours. 9 hours plus, there's higher disease rates. 5 hours or less, there's higher disease rates. So let's just get optimal. Now, what kind of drugs? Remember, the average person over 60 has taken 12 of them. What kind of drugs screw up sleep? Appetite suppressants, antacids, high blood pressure drugs. Interesting. High blood pressure drugs cause lack of sleep. Lack of sleep causes high blood pressure. Yeah, welcome to the belief system of 2017. If you weren't scared before, you sure will be now. Okay, over-the-counter cold medicines, steroids, analgesics, sedative medications used to induce sleep can negatively affect sleep. Welcome to 2017. I mean, if this doesn't make sense to you because it's crazy, this is our society. Okay, antihistamines, sleep medications cause lack of sleep. Okay, so what's the antidote? If you're in chronic stress, we know that we got to rewire the brain. That's going to change our perception. We know we got to get deep sleep. But if you've had chronic stress hormones, niacin, vitamin C, vitamin E, beta carotene, selenium, minerals, I mean, we're just talking normal, healthy nutrients and supplements. We have to maintain our healthy microbiome. So this means no genetically modified food, no glyphosates. The spray that they put on most of the grains, it literally destroys your microflora. Without the healthy gut flora, your body just starts to decay. Your immune system is weakened. Optimize your gut flora, organic plant-based diet, healthy fats, coconut oil, olive oil, fermented veggies, probiotics, juiced vegetables, blended fruits, raw dairy. I mean, it just makes sense. You've got to get sunlight exposure. I mean, now it's easy because we're outside. If you're freaked out about the sun hitting your skin, put some coconut oil on it. It's got an SPF of 6, you'll be fine. Okay, really, and this is going to be a shocker. Our species is designed to live on this planet. The sunlight is not dangerous. Okay? We just need to watch the exposure. The best sunblock in the world is called a hat. Okay, and then you could use coconut oil afterwards. Okay, but you got to get 8,000 international units a day for the average on adults. I mean, it's vital. You need fermented veggies or vitamin K2 in order to process the vitamin D3. There's going to be grass-fed animal products, fermented foods, certain cheeses. Magnesium. I mean, we recommend Body Balance, which is ground up seaweed, because it's got every type of vitamin or every type of mineral there. But look at this, magnesium deficiency. You're talking chronic fatigue, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, insomnia. Doesn't that sound like a deficiency can cause a stress response? Because it can. That's why we say most diseases are deficiencies or toxicities. So where can you get magnesium? Chocolate, baby, and avocados. I know. Who wouldn't want a little bit of guacamole? But don't use the genetically modified tortilla chips. Take like a big hunk of lettuce, like some romaine lettuce or cabbage. My God, those are some good chips. Okay? And for healthy brain function, you've got to avoid processed foods, genetically modified foods, grain, artificial processed sugars, pasteurized, homogenized deli. I mean, the unhealthy meats. It's so weird for me to put up a slide and say, yeah, a lot of the stuff that's available that's called food is really poisonous. You shouldn't eat it because then you're going to have a chemical stressor. What happens if you eat this stuff? What kind of stress response happens? Sympathetics are going to fire up. Blood supply to the gut's going to be shut down. Weakened immune system. Why? Because this is a chemical stressor. Does that make sense? It's no longer, oh my God, I'm going to get the healthy choice microwavable meals. It's a chemical stressor that's going to stimulate the sympathetics. Does that make sense? Okay, so when we put up these 5 keys to health, proper nerve supply. Why? Because that's how your body perceives the environment. Regular exercise. Movement actually stimulates brain function. Proper nutrition. That means if man makes it, you don't eat it. Sufficient rest. Can you see that without sufficient rest that there would be a major chemical stressor? And prayer and meditation. What do we know about our brain? If we rewire it, we change our perception. That changes the chemicals that your brain is secreting, and your body will respond on a cellular basis. And you might say, man, if this information got out, does that mean that according to the CDC, about 85 to 90% of all diseases go? Isn't that interesting? Okay, we're going to, we still have a couple of months left before the cruise. I'd recommend, if anyone wants to hang out in Spain, okay, we start in Barcelona. Then we go to France, and honestly, the only thing I want to do in France is have a non-genetically modified crescent roll and coffee. I don't know if I could find one here in this country, and then I want to look out over the Mediterranean. That's just like the whole thing about the cruise right there. And then hanging with really cool people. We've got great speakers. Man, check it out on our website, the drjohnbergman.com site. And next week, Dr. Mike is going to talk about how to biohack Part 2. I know, don't give me that look because you didn't see Biohack Part 1. You got to see Part 1 before next week. Thank you very much.